nerds, and welcome to the Geek Girls Story Salon, where I talk to creatives from across disciplines and across the world about the art of storytelling. I'm your host, Jen Jackalone, lifelong storyteller and head geek in charge. Today, we're talking Hanky Panky. Now, if you're looking for a show about the Gene Wilder film from 1982, I'm afraid this is the wrong podcast for you. But if you're looking for a show about the 2023 film where our hero and his talking napkin have to fight to save the world from the evil plans of a brain-sucking hat from another dimension, you're in the right place. I'm talking today with director Nick Roth, and we're going to get to the bottom of this whole thing. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. That was a great brain-sucking hat from another dimension is probably the best anybody's put it so far. I might steal that and use that. Yes, that's what the movie's about.
I try, man. I try. So, if we met, let's say, at a wedding or a party or, somewhere where we're waiting in line for a drink, and I said, so, what's your story? What do you tell me?
Oh, I don't know. Jeez. I would say, oh, man. There's so many different versions of this. We're at a wedding or in line for a drink. I don't know. I'd probably be like, I'm a writer, and a teacher because it's hard to just be a writer. And I do those things. And I don't know, I'd probably immediately try to turn around and ask you about yourself instead of, of explaining anything more. I'm from LA. I have 2 kids. They're both small. I'm exhausted. And
I hate to be discouraging, but one of mine just graduated high school. The other will be graduating next year. Somehow it doesn't get any less exhausting. You just get exhausted about different things.
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm gathered. Although so far I'm liking the new kinds of exhaustion more and more every time. Mm-hmm. So it already feels like my 3-year-old is more work than less work than my 1-year-old. You know what I mean? Not that she's actually less, but it's
different work.
It's
so
different work. Yeah.
It feels like a break.
Because we can also hang out. You know what I mean? My 1-year-old and I, we can hang out for minutes.
Right.
But then there's long periods where it's really just I'm taking care of him because he is a baby. But my 3-year-old is we'll have conversations or go on adventures. It's more, so it's trending more towards exhausting hanging out than just keeping a thing alive.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. By the time they're about 3, they have opinions about things. And
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just strong opinions about things.
Oh, yeah. I remember well. So you're here to talk about Hanky Panky, which is your feature about a man and his sentient handkerchief bestie saving the world. There is fake blood. There is questionable makeup. There is ridiculous puppetry, and there is Seth Green as an evil talking hat.
Those are many of our main selling points. Yes.
Where did this idea come from?
Honestly, it can't look okay. The group. This movie was made with no budget. Forget studio. There's no production company. There's no nothing. It's just a group of friends. I co-directed it with my wife. It's all of our closest, half this cast was basically our wedding party. This is nice. A very small group of, we're mostly from LA, or we've grew up in LA, and we're sort of in and around the film business, everybody. So it was we just at some point were let's pool our resources and just make a movie. Nobody can stop us with whatever we have. And we had a cabin, and we had a camera, and we had friends who would loan us, some lights and gear and stuff like that. So we were well, that's it. We're it's mostly a bunch of us, and we're all actors or actor adjacent, so we can make a movie, right? It was hard, but we did it. And the whole time I was sort of promising everybody, this is a real movie. It's going to be a real movie. And everyone was sure, Nick, whatever, but this is fun. And then somehow, improbably, at the end of the day, it's now, I guess it's a real movie. It's streaming on the internet. You can get it. We just dropped on Tubi, which is my favorite place for it. I would recommend seeing it there. I've been watching it on Tubi because I think it's better with ads. I think it's improved. I think ads have really I think ads, ready for this hot take? Ads have improved the home viewing experience recently, full circle, because if I watch something on Netflix or whatever, or Max, I'm on my phone the whole time now. I'm just down looking at my phone, distracted or whatever. When I watch something on Tubi with ads, I watch it and then I know that there's an ad coming and that's when I check my email or whatever. So I'm actually paying more attention because of the ads. That's when I'll go pee or whatever.
Interesting. Interesting. That is definitely a new take I've never heard. So basically, you had the cabin, and that was sort of your starting point. What can we do with this?
It's a cabin first film. Yes. We were like, cause that's Lindsay's dad's cabin. He's
Mhm,
also the composer of the score. Like I said, small team. And
mhm,
so we were like, well, we have a cat. We had also made a short film of the same name, with a talking napkin. And so when a group of us were like, let's make a feature, I was like, well, we could take the silliest short film that we did because we had made a bunch of shorts together. Some were some sort of serious drama, some zany comedy, and well, let's make the silliest one into a cabin, horror murder mystery. We all, I guess Clue is probably the most sort of like structurally adjacent film that we were like, okay, a bunch of people show up at one place and start dying one by one, um, and fast talking zaniness ensues.
mhm. So, so how did you choose the napkin that you ultimately cast as the co-star? Did you have to audition a lot of napkins before you settled on that one, or?
We did. We went to Target and we looked at a lot of different possibilities. And I actually have here's one of them here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Uh, I'm not going to puppet him. That is Toby Bryan's job, but I will
Fair
show
enough.
him off. He is,
Oh,
you know,
yep.
uh, it just spoke to us the second that Lindsay and I discovered him. We were like, this is it. You know what I
This
mean?
is this is our napkin.
Yeah. Once we found that napkin, we were like, we don't need. We had to find, and there were 4 or 5 of him, and
Mhm.
interestingly, because we needed one to be on fishing line,
Right, right.
one to possibly get blood on him, one to so um it's like when you have like twin babies in a acting in a movie. It's Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen, except
Right.
with a napkin.
Napkin. Yeah. Okay. How'd you get Seth Green involved? Do you know him, or does one of you hang out with him, or something like that?
Yeah, this is all like one group of friends, and Seth is a friend of ours. Seth's wife Claire is plays Kelly in the movie.
Hmm.
When we initially made the film, we didn't cast Seth because we'd only been friends for a few years at that point, and
Hmm.
I didn't want Seth to feel like I was just becoming friends with him to
Hmm.
get him into my weird napkin movie. Just something I was very cognizant of. And then after we had made the film and Seth was like, I want to be a part of it. I was like, well, sir, luckily we made a puppet movie, and as he knows better than anybody about puppets, you can still cast them after the fact. And the initial idea was we would probably do that with both the napkins in both the puppets in the film, the
Hmm.
napkin and the hat.
Hmm.
But in the editing process, we just became so attached to Toby's performance as as Woody, that
Hmm.
that was inseparable. We were like, we're not going to go find some famous person to do this because it's too good as just him.
Yeah, yeah. Woody has to me like I don't know. There's like some Danny DeVito energy there.
Yeah, I think there's probably it's got a lot of that. You know, Toby's very talented. He both plays Norm in the film, he's
Hmm.
the creepy brother, and the voice of Woody. And he built the puppets. And if they're flying around, it's probably some combination of me and Toby. But Toby's the sort of lead of the
Hmm.
engineering of all of
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
And I don't know, he brought a lot of really interesting, different. The whole movie is kind of like we're bringing all of our favorite weird references to a movie, just like throwing the kitchen sink in. There's a lot of Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, which I
Yep.
think is probably
Yep.
very near and dear to
Hmm.
my comedic sensibility, as well as like a bit of a Monty Python, um,
Hmm.
and then a lot of homages to The Shining. We
Hmm.
just like sandwiched all of the things that we love the most into a movie because I don't know, there was no one to tell us no, and we were a weird group of people just saying yes to each other, which is how you end up with like I don't know, a face on the back of somebody's head and weird
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. That was a plot twist. I knew there was going to be something wrong with that character, but I will say that I did not think it would be that.
Well, I think that this movie is, if nothing else, unpredictable. I
Mm,
just can't imagine anybody could watch the first half of this movie and know what the second half is.
mm,
And I hope that that's something special about it. I mean, I think we see a lot of movies today. A lot of the movies that I see, and not necessarily in a bad way, but there's just like I know where they're going. Like there's only so many, even the ones I like. Like the satisfaction is in seeing how they play out rather than what happens.
right.
And so this is really a movie that's more on the like, oh, you don't know what's going to happen. If you're invested at all, then you're along for a ride because there's no way to see where we're going here.
Hmm. Yeah, well, it definitely has that vibe. Like, it just seemed like everybody was having a good time, and I mean, it's a unique thing. It sort of has like, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes energy, but at the same time, there's like all those other things that you mentioned. I mean, I've been a fan of The Simpsons since whatever the '90s, so I definitely picked up on those Treehouse of Horror vibes for sure. Um,
Yeah,
so.
live action Treehouse of Horror was on like viscerally in our minds, I think, as we were like, this
Mhm.
is the tone we're shooting for. I also saw you said Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. I had watched at some point there was on Showtime, which existed at the time. There was a movie called like Attack of the Killer Donuts,
Mm.
and that was a real like, oh, we could do this. So this is a real movie, and like every time the donuts attack, it's clearly just people off screen throwing donuts at the people. Like there is no special effect beyond that, if I recall correctly. And I was like, this is on TV. Like I was like, I can do that. Why not?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. There's some of those real classic like uh Polish Vampire in Burbank.
I have not seen that, but that sounds exquisite.
It's amazing, and it's that same sort of like I think there's something really great about people just doing this sort of guerrilla thing where they pull it together with some friends and just make a thing because they can make a thing.
Yeah, I mean that was our I don't know if I would do it again this exact way, but like we were just like hell or high water. We got to make a movie. We had made a lot of shorts and music videos, and
Mm,
we're all working in weird industrial film, and I just like we were all like doing whatever, and it's a lot of
mhm.
actors, and so we were just acting and whatever, and we were like we could make a movie. Let's
Why
just
not?
let's just see what would happen if we just made a film, and then we really built the film out of what is the movie we could make rather than what's the movie I want to make, and then what's the best I can do with limited
Hmm.
resources, right?
Sure.
So because of that, there's no compromise. There's no like, man, I wish we could do this, but and it's just like, here's what we can do. Let's do it.
Mm,
And I think
hmm.
that gives it a sort of fun, special vibe. It's a fun way to make certainly to make your first feature. I don't know how
Hmm.
else we could have made one.
Yeah, I don't know. So, all right. So somebody throws $200 million at you and says, "Okay, go ahead, kid. Go make the movie you want to make." What movie is that?
Uh, Man, Hanky Panky 2 would have so much fun special effects if we had a $200 million budget. It would definitely be like a major Independence Day style alien invasion movie with all of the hats and okay,
The
I don't
hat.
know. I would probably do some big sci-fi thing. I probably wouldn't spend it all on I maybe I'd like pocket out of the budget. Who did this? Oh, there's some famous example of someone had I wish I could remember. This is going to drive me crazy. There was some movie that was a big budget movie where the filmmaker snuck a small budget, like tiny independent film into and like used that, like shot it at the same time, but like on the weekends or whatever. And
Hmm.
there's like a
Hmm.
weird little independent film that's just written off in the margins of some big movie. Oh, it's such a good story, and I'm completely blanking. It'll come back to me later, or I'll email you if you want to put it in.
Yeah, no, I
But I
love
would
that.
probably do that with Hanky Panky too. And I would make like a really big, fun sci-fi, landing on a strange world planet type of movie. I have a bunch of pitches and stuff for that kind of thing.
Sure.
And I think that would be super fun. Original sci-fi, which is such
Right.
a great money making. endeavor. Everyone wants to give you $200 million to do it.
Yeah,
So if someone
yeah, of
did,
course,
carte blanche would be
obviously.
like, yes, yeah,
Yeah.
I have a couple ideas for that.
I don't know. I want like the space heist. I want
Hmm.
like a space like sci-fi like heist movie.
I got one of those. It's
Yeah.
about an alien drug that
Hmm.
makes you luckier. And this
Hmm.
is a major threat to the like space casino in industry.
Oh,
Yeah,
I like
I think
that.
that could be fun.
Yeah. Huh.
Kind of like a, and then maybe do it with it, some, I probably, it's like Pineapple Express in space is my
Okay.
pitch for that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be fun.
That would be fun. See, I think I was thinking more like Ocean's 11 in space.
Yeah.
Really, you could like combine them and somehow like have the
Yeah.
drug factor into the heist and
Yeah. We're talking the same
like
language here
that.
because I think it would
Yeah,
be
yeah,
really
yeah.
fun. The drug makes you luckier, which makes them impossible to kill because they're too
Hmm.
lucky, right? But there's
Hmm.
like an explanation for all the coincidences that happen.
Right,
I think it
right.
could be really fun. Um,
Basically, every protagonist in the movie is Domino from Deadpool.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
You do it
I
a
think,
little bit more like hard sci-fi though, where it's like
right.
there's some like it shifts your quantum field such that your intention is aligned with the probabilities of whatever. I have like in my head I have it, but I think that stuff is fun. I think I like any pitch that's whatever in space.
Mm-hmm. Same, same.
I mean, I know
100%.
it's sort of become like a joke thing, but I think it's great. I have a pilot that's the office in space. Like I have a lot of in
Nice.
space things.
Nice. No, I think that's awesome. I love that. Yeah, like I submitted something to my publisher and they were like, "Well, it's really great, but we think that it would be better if you just took out the sci-fi element and just made it like a." I'm like, "No, I'm not doing that."
No, I mean a lot of what I write is for like depressed 12-year-old me that only wanted sci-fi.
Hmm.
And so like how can you remove the thing that's the core of it?
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's like, no. It's like, no, like, just this story without the space stuff is boring. We've seen that. And I don't know. I mean, it's a weird thing because there's a market that expects a certain thing and you can cater to that market, but, you know, it's a question of are you going to be happy catering to that market?
Yeah, I mean, Hanky Panky, we made a horror film partly because we knew there'd be a sort of a market on the other end of things
Hmm.
for us. Like there's always a market for low budget horror. Um, which is I like I want to write a zany comedy or whatever, but there's nothing we could do with that. But we knew if we made it a horror film that there'd be people
Hmm.
who would want to watch it. And so maybe we could sneak in a kind of like weirdly, like we put a lot of thought into this very stupid movie kind of
Hmm.
movie,
Hmm. Hmm.
and it's sort of disarmingly like it there's like I don't want to say it's smarter because it's a very dumb movie, but like there's an enormous amount of thought and effort that's gone into
Yeah.
thinking about how to make it fun dumb.
Hmm.
And like you I don't know, you sort of maybe we should have catered more into the genre expectation because there's not a lot of it's not a scary film. There's not a lot of blood and horror. Like it could have we could have done more of that. I don't know. So I think there's always a sort of modulation. I'm curious. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah.
Like
I don't know.
when
I
how much
think,
do you write for a market?
I mean, I've been in sort of a state of doing that right now for the last couple of years, and it's hard. Like it's great when what I'm feeling like I want to do is aligning with what the market is. But like I'm looking at this last hurdle, and I'm going, all right, maybe it's time to not do this anymore because there's a much bigger side of me that wants to talk about this stuff, that wants to talk about nerdy movies, and that wants to like hang out with people who get it when I say that the fishing cabin on the fishing shack on the ice is like the TARDIS because from the outside shot it's like this big and then you go in and it's like a whole ass living room.
It's partly because we shot the outside on a frozen lake and the inside in our living room.
Right. Well, I figured, but still, it works as a, it works as a thing because okay, everybody's tripping on mushrooms or whatever.
Yeah,
So
they're all on
sure.
mushrooms. The other reference there, obviously TARDIS is
Hmm.
on the outside we sort of made it look as like TARDIS like. The inside we also sort of modeled that bit after it's a very obscure reference, but in
Go for it.
Lethal Weapon, sorry, in Loaded Weapon, the spoof of Lethal Weapon,
Oh
uh,
wow. Okay.
Emilio Estevez lives on a like a trailer on the beach that's like it's a trailer, a single wide trailer on the
Mm.
outside, and when he goes in, it's like marble and chandeliers and it's
Hmm.
just it's just there's
Wow. Yeah.
no point. I don't even know what that's a spoof of. So we were really deep into spoof of a
Right.
spoof.
Right. Right.
Um,
Wow.
by the
I
time
I
we did
didn't
it.
I didn't even remember that movie existed, much less that bit from that movie.
there there are weird things that stick in my head, and that's for whatever reason that was one of them. I remember seeing that as a kid and just being so confused by it that it stuck. I was like, I don't understand why. Like, is this making fun of, because almost everything else in the movie is like making fun of genre tropes from the like cop action movie, and I was
Hmm.
like, is this a genre trope that I wouldn't have used that term as like a 10-year-old or whatever, but I was
Right. Of
like
course.
that's being made fun of. Like I don't
Right. Is this a
like I
thing I'm
don't
unaware of?
yeah, or is it just I think it's just sheer stupid, and that's fine too. So sometimes there's things that I find really appealing that are a little confusing. that was that was one of
Well,
them, and it exists in
yeah.
enough things. The inside is bigger than the outside is a
Hmm.
there's enough. I don't know what the original one is. There's probably something even older than Doctor Who.
Could be. I mean, we are talking the 60s at that point, but yeah,
Yeah.
it could be. There's probably like some hard sci-fi thing from like, like a throwaway line in an like Asimov book or something.
Yeah, there's
It's like,
probably like Jules Verne probably was like, there's a room in there's a cave in Journey to the Center of the Earth or whatever that's smaller or on the
right.
outside of these. I don't know, but there's I'm sure it goes way like anything that's happened a bunch of times. There's probably something in like Gilgamesh or whatever. It's thousands of years
Hmm.
old, and
Hmm.
they were doing it back
Yeah,
then.
yeah. Shaka when the walls fell. So you do all three things in this movie in terms of like you act, you write, you direct. I won't ask you which one you like better because that's not really a fair question. Um,
Writing, but
Writing?
but
Really?
yeah, but
Okay.
continue. Yeah.
Well, I just wondered what each of these different things kind of satisfies for you, or what part of your brain does it hit?
Truly, I just want to write, and everything else was like a function of trying to make the movie happen. Like we only had so many people to be cast and crew.
Hmm.
We needed
Hmm.
bodies, so I was like, okay, I'll act in it, but I'll die first, so I can get out of there as quickly as possible. Um,
So
just
it's
sort of like
really not your thing, acting.
no, I mean it's a lot of fun. I like it. I had a really good time playing
Hmm.
Doug. If it's not clear, I had a very good time playing Dr. Crane in the movie, even though I was terrified that I would be awful and ruin everything. But I think I was able to sort of pull it off. Um, I don't know, like most of the things that satisfy other parts of my brain are like like gaming wise and not part of my film making job. Like
Hmm.
I spend a lot of time turning like I like to turn things into games that aren't games. I spent a lot of time running a really elaborate Game of Thrones fantasy tournament, for example, that like it's fantasy sports but with Game of Thrones. I'm not doing it anymore with the new show because it doesn't work as well. But like play a little bit of D&D. Like
Hmm.
that's the parts of that are scratching the other parts of my like creative brain. Like
Hmm.
for me, I'd rather be doing those things
Yeah.
and then just writing the scripts. But sometimes you have to do a lot more than write a script to make a movie. In a perfect world, I don't even need the $200 million. They can give me $2 million for the script. Amazing. And then they can keep the other 198 and have someone else make it. That would be fun. Then I could just
Yeah.
go see it. I could just write things and then go see them.
Yeah.
Wow.
See, like
That sounds
part
nice.
of me is 100% like that because I have some scripts kicking around, and it's like part of me would just love someone to grab it and take it and make it and be done with it. And
Yeah.
then occasionally I see things, or I see other writers that I know talking about like, yeah, they bought my script, but it became something that was not my script
Sure.
at the time they were done with it.
I'm sure that if and when I get more things made that I've written but not been a part of, then I'll completely reverse course on this opinion and be like, I got to make all these things myself. Everybody's ruining my stuff. So maybe I'm just not there yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's like whatever. I mean, I think I'm more closer to where you are now than those folks, but I just want to see something made. And
Yeah.
there's an attitude like there is a disposition of, well, if I gotta make it myself. I mean, I'm looking at right now at doing like audio dramas just to see
Hmm.
something brought to life in a way that's affordable for me to do, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but like creative control. My son, actually, my teenage son is a dungeon master, and
Hmm.
he sometimes gets really frustrated with his players because they're
Mm.
not playing through the story the way he wants them to play through the story.
Yes.
And it's
He should
like,
try writing a screenplay.
well, yeah, he's self-published two books so far, and I've been encouraging him to do some
Oh wow.
screenwriting just
That's
to, yeah,
that's amazing. He's a
yeah.
go-getter.
He is. He's got the same ADHD hamster up in his brain that I do. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But okay. So since we actually are on the topic of D&D, I have a question.
Oh, please.
Okay. So what is your D&D alignment?
Oh, neutral good.
Neutral good? Okay.
For
For
sure
the
good.
What's that?
For sure good.
For sure good. Okay.
And I think, yeah, for sure neutral. Neutral good.
Okay.
Because I don't know, I like to pick and choose what kinds of rules and structures I follow and then and like really carefully and then not follow others. Like that's a big part of my like mental life is like, oh, here's a
Mm,
tradition that I appreciate and then can get into. And here's one that this is bad. Let's get rid of that. And so it's like I could never be lawful, but if I'm honest, I'm not that chaotic. I would like to have a routine and get up and do the same thing every day.
mm,
Um I wrote on a TV show for a while and I will say that like getting up and going to an office and doing the thing is like very good for my brain. I
mm,
function really well within those structures. So it can't be chaotic. So yeah, so neutral good and commitment to just like I gotta trying really hard to be good. You
mm,
know, like
mm.
that's a big part of me. What about you? What's yours?
I would like to be neutral good. I think I'm more chaotic than I wish I was. Like I do well with structure for like a sort of fixed period of time, and then beyond that, like okay, then I have to break it just because the sameness of it gets to me. It's like I don't know, it's probably my ADHD. The hamster's like, all right, come on, you
Mm,
know. So I think that's where I am. I am probably chaotic good, but I'm more chaotic than I would probably ideally like to be.
yeah, I think that's probably a healthy position to be in to just steer towards the neutral.
Yeah, yeah. Doesn't always work. I don't always get there, but I do my best. Um,
I did also just only because I can't help myself and I think only like one friend of mine has and will do anything with it. I designed some homebrew races for Napkind and Hatfolk, based on the characters in the film. They're on our link tree
okay.
and you can get them on D&D Beyond if you just I don't know what you have to search for to find them on D&D Beyond, but like
Okay.
you can actually like I made them public homebrew races. So if you want to make a hat folk.
Okay.
Uh, they're great. They're aberrations. They're tiny. They're, there's a special soul sucking move for the hat. The
Mm,
napkin is just like incredibly nimble. It's sort of like
mm.
a bits of fairy and goblin in
Ve-
there. Just like
Right, right. Very high decks.
yeah, there's definitely a dex boost for the napkin. I don't know. I'm always making up random stuff, and I was like, oh, maybe if this movie becomes like a weird, improbable hit, like there'll be people who are stumble upon that there are like, a semi-official, whatever that even means, homebrew races for the film and make some hats and napkins. But the one friend of mine who was like, I'm gonna try this out and made them was like, so I made a hat and a napkin. They've like infiltrated a group of adventurers who don't know that they're and so they just think that's a hat and a napkin and they're part of the adventuring group. I was like, see, already this is like way better than anything I would have even come up with myself. So I love that about making up stuff in D&D is that like when your characters or when your players like immediately you know they think of logical consequences of the thing that you thought of that supersede what you could have by yourself come up with. Right. Like that's so good. Like of course they're like just infiltrating other groups of adventurers because it's a hat. And like, and they just think that it's a hat. That's perfect. That's like, and now that's like, that could be an entire campaign you could build around that. It's a very fun, but completely sort of like opposite to screenwriting, I think, storytelling practice that I think it's two sides of the same coin or whatever. And I
Right.
like that very much.
Yeah. Yeah, with that, it's just like setting something loose and seeing what people do with it.
Yeah. And it's also a really good, exercise in like egoless storytelling because you really do have to, you as a DM,
Hmm.
especially if you're homebrewing your own campaigns, it's like,
Hmm.
you really need to be willing to kill your darlings on the fly and with no hesitation in the moment and you have to listen
Hmm.
to really carefully. Like it's a bunch of things that are good for screenwriting, but you don't actually have to do
Hmm.
if you're writing like by yourself.
Hmm.
And so I, it's kind of like my favorite thing. I wish I had like more like time and apparatus to do it more in my life.
Yeah.
Um, because I don't know. That's like the perfect thing for my messed up brain is
Hmm.
DMing.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, talking about, being nimble and changing things on the fly, like I've seen him spend 2 days on a dungeon, and then his players will just go like busting through the walls like the Kool-Aid Man.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, yeah, you thought you were gonna spend a whole 5-hour session in that, dungeon, and that's not happening now. So
I
what you,
also like I don't know if this is a thing. My friends and I started doing this is like
mm,
fully improving like one shot campaign. Like
mm,
it's a thing I sort of got into to get some of my friends who didn't play into it, where I'd be like, we'll come up with something literally on the fly and just see
mm,
where it takes us. Like come up with a couple characters. We'll start in a tavern and we'll see, and we'll just like go wherever. Like I think of a few things in my head. Oh, there's a
mm,
skeleton in the basement of the time or whatever. Like, and then like that sometimes leads to like just the silliest, most satisfying things because it's like I'm really not railroading anybody anywhere. It's truly like what are they? What is you? It's really hard. Like by the end of a session like that, I'm like sweating. You know what I mean? Because it's so much work to, it's so much brain power to like improv and corral on
mm,
the fly. But I don't know.
mm.
I find that really fun too.
Yeah, I think my kid would hate that, probably.
Yeah, it's a very different style of um, it's all theater of the mind. It's all like you can't have a map if you're making it up
Hmm.
as you go. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
there's people who obviously do it very differently and there's no right way, which is cool. But like
Yeah.
I like to be able to just like if I put some stuff that's like this is well thought through in front of them and let them go
Hmm.
through that, but then also like have stuff that's
Just
just like
make it up.
yeah, I can't stop myself. Like I ran a campaign. It was mostly during with a bunch of friends.
Hmm.
Actually, it's all people in the movie. It's Lindsay, Ashley who plays Diane, and her husband who's not in the movie, and Seth and Claire. And we all ran I ran a campaign with like a time traveling campaign with them. And then then we all got busy and had kids and like we haven't gotten to play much since then. This was a few years ago, but I have written an entire sequel campaign that like exists and just is sitting there. And I'm like, I can't, every once in a while, I think of another really funny thing and I put it in it and I can't stop. And I'm like, guys, we have to at some point run this simply because I need to get it out of my head and out of my Google documents because it is taking up too much real estate in my mind, but I can't stop. It's too funny. And I can't do it for anybody else. It's all inside jokes that are based on the first campaign we ran. So I don't know. I still haven't figured out how to mesh all of my professional ambitions together with how much I just want to like make games. I don't know. If anyone who's hiring game designers is out there and is like, I see
Well,
something in this young man.
well, I mean, that is a whole world, you know.
I know. But how? How to feed a family as like an entry level person into it? I don't think I can.
Yeah, I don't know. I just my operating procedure for most things has been, just run at the wall without a helmet and see what happens.
Yeah.
Um, because you don't know. You don't know. You never know. I don't know. I have a question about straight jobs, like
Mm,
normal day jobs, because you've mentioned that. Uh,
yes.
you taught Latin?
Oh yeah. Okay. So okay. I was a very nerdy academic, and I got my PhD in English. And in towards the end of that, I went to my 10-year high school reunion, which full circle, I just went to my 20, which was crazy. But
Mhm.
I went so at my 10-year high school reunion, uh, my old dean was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just finishing up my PhD, but I think I want to like be a television writer." And he was like, "Oh, wow. Would you like a job as a substitute Latin teacher?" And I was like, "Yes." And so uh I went back to my old middle school and high school where they put me in the sub pool because I had been a Latin nerd in high school and like taken a little Latin through college. And just general being a classics nerd for no good reason. And but I was the only sub the school had that like knew that had gone to the school and like knew the Latin curriculum and stuff.
Mhm.
And so like suddenly every Latin teacher at the school who had been like, when you're a Latin teacher, there's a lot of pressure not to take off your vacation days and stuff because nobody can
Cover
even
for you.
begin to
Hmm.
teach your lesson plan. It's not like,
Right.
okay, here's the day's work. It's an English class, a history class, a math class. Give them this. It's Latin. Like nobody who's a sub knows any of it. So there's no
Hmm.
chance. And then so suddenly they were like, oh, this guy could actually teach my lesson plan for the day. And like one person immediately was like, I'm taking 3 weeks off. And another Latin teacher was like, oh, yeah, I'm going on the road with the volleyball team. I've always wanted to do it. Like whatever. Like we're like, and so I was there was a period where I was subbing quite a bit of Latin and it's hard because especially in middle school you come in there and there's a room full of 13-year-olds who they literally one day I walked in and some kid was like saw me and was like it's a sub and threw all of his papers from his folder up into the air in celebration and was like we don't have to do any work and I was like actually okay so I know Latin salve or salvete or whatever like we're actually going to have to do Latin today and I'm going to be here for a few weeks doing Latin and they were like so flabbergasted by this idea. Is
How
really
long
have
how
to
long did you do that for?
a couple years. I did it for 2 years, and then I got until I got a writer's assistant job on a TV show that I eventually got staffed on, and so I was there for 5 years after that. And so
Oh,
it was I don't know. It felt like a long time.
yeah.
2 years of subbing mostly Latin. I mean, I was subbing whatever, but it was overwhelmingly Latin, is what they
Hmm.
had me to sub.
Hmm.
Um,
For middle schoolers, no less.
Yes, sometimes it would be high schoolers, which was then it would be a challenge because then it was like actual like harder Latin, and I'd have to
Hmm.
get in there and do Virgil with them and be like, oh my God,
Hmm.
I have to pretend like I know more than them, and I didn't. Um, but yeah, middle school Latin was a very fun challenge to be
Interesting.
subbing.
Wow. So is it true what they say that after Latin teachers stop teaching, they decline?
I mean, probably. I probably peaked somewhere in my late 20s teaching Latin.
Yeah. Got any good Latin jokes?
I think that's the best one. That's the only one I already knew. So
Oh, okay.
so I think you got it. Do you have other
Okay.
are you a classics nerd? Do you have Latin
Yeah,
jokes? Do you
I,
have
I
Greek
I
jokes?
I have a small number of Latin jokes. I don't consider myself a classic nerd, but I am definitely adjacent. So I absorb things
Yeah.
by osmosis. Um, there's the one about the senator who shows up late, 15 minutes late to the Senate meeting, and he sits down and whispers to the guy, and Cicero is speaking, and he whispers to the guy next to him, what's his speech about? And the guy says, I don't know, he hasn't gotten to the verb yet.
Solid.
Yeah.
It's a good
Roman.
Cicero joke.
It is a good, I wish I knew more Cicero jokes.
Yeah. I think I'm okay that I don't know more Cicero. I know enough things that I'm fine. I'm
I
fine
mean,
that that's not a thing I have.
I'm sure that joke pushed something more useful out of my head because that's
Yeah.
generally the way that works.
That's fine though. You know what I mean? Like it's there's definitely stuff in my head I would be glad to get rid of
Mm,
for additional Cicero content. Like that I would gladly make room for more of that. But I'm also that's not the top of my priority list of things I'm trying to put in there.
yeah. Yeah. If only there was some system to prioritize what your brain actually hung on to.
Yeah, I'm sure AI will figure out how to do it for us eventually. I was a full on classics nerdy kid. Like I went to Latin convention every year where we,
Wow.
dress up in togas and do like
Hmm.
Latin themed events.
Hmm.
Really fun. Really good
Wow.
stuff. Really
That
cool.
actually, see, that sounds awesome to me
It was pretty
personally. It
fun.
would. Yeah. So your PhD is in what?
Oh, it's just in English.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, kind of boring. I know.
Okay. So you went hard with the Latin just 'cause.
Yeah, the Latin I like came somewhat easy and was kind of fun for me. And like
Hmm.
that worked for my brain in high school. And so I just like kept doing it. And even at my high school it was like it was mandatory in middle school and then optional after that. And I was like, well, I'll just keep doing this. Like I don't want to start with another language from scratch. I already have a year of Latin.
Hmm.
And so it was mostly laziness and then inertia
Hmm.
that drove me into becoming a classics nerd. But I don't regret it because then it was a lot of fun. Um,
Cool.
although probably it would have been more practical if I had learned, Spanish or Japanese or whatever. But
Mm. Well, Japanese is very hard. Like I, I,
yeah.
I fool around with languages a lot, and I
Hmm.
spent a year like whacking my head against Japanese, and at the end of a year, I was still terrible at it.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
It's
yeah.
hard, but then there's all these movies that I wish I could watch in Japanese,
Mm.
especially because I kind of speak a little French enough that I can kind of
Hmm.
like watch a movie in French
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
get the French or whatever.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah. Same.
that's
You,
cool.
you know you're at a good place where like you have the subs on, and they say something, and the sub is like, and you're like, that's not exactly what they said, though.
Yes, it's really fun. And then I can turn to my wife and be like, "Oh, you know what they actually?" She's like, "I don't. I'm watching the movie." And I'm like, "Oh, but there's a nuance in the French that I understand that I can help you with." She's like,
Yeah,
"Thank you, thank you."
yeah, 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 yeah. So we are coming up on time, but did you bring a show and tell?
I did bring a show and tell,
All
and
right.
it's this mug that I've been drinking out of the whole time.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I'm a big fan of making and designing mugs. And okay, so I mentioned that I wrote in a TV show. It was called American Housewife. It was it was a surprisingly long-lived ABC
Mm-hmm.
sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
Um and one year for Christmas, I got all the writing staff. I made this mug that's full of really fun. I don't know how much you can see of it. It's a bunch of things making fun of both me and the show, which I think
Okay.
which was really good. So we did an arc that season where this will be really great for the American Housewife fans of the show of which there are probably one or two maybe. Where that's Katie Mixon's character,
Mm-hmm.
she gets into the lasagna business.
Mm.
Um and so it says Merry Christmas to my favorite lasantrepreneurs, a
Oh my
joke we
God.
never used on
Oh
the
my
show.
gosh. Wow. Okay.
And then XOXO, the Jar Czar, which was a joke we used on the show, which I had pitched. And so that I photoshopped. This was my at the time I was teaching. Also in my spare time, I taught a UCLA extension filmmaking class, and the UCLA headshot that they gave me was this, but I
Mhm.
had a perfect blue screen and so I
Mm.
could put it anywhere I wanted, and so I photoshopped all these jars into my hands, which I
Okay.
was pretty proud of. I mean, it's a
Okay.
lot of jar content to make the jars are, which I wanted to
Wow.
do more of
Wow.
on the
Okay.
show. I could, and then I
More
just am like
jars.
really proud of my Photoshop work here. So like, here's because
Yeah, I
what Katie
see.
does in the show is she put the lasagna in the jars. That was
Oh.
the entrepreneurial thing. So it
Mm,
was
okay.
Christmas, and we got Christmas, we got lasagna. We have
Mm-hmm.
there's just like a lot happening. I think did some really nice design work with the different fonts and
Yeah,
colors and
yeah, yeah.
Christmas
Very,
theme uh just like
really, really brought it all together and kind of,
yeah, with like a fabulous pun at the heart of it. I can't believe Les Entrepreneurs never
yeah,
aired,
yeah.
you know?
That's a shame. That's a
Yeah,
shame.
when you write on a comedy show, especially as like a lower level writer on a comedy show, your job
Mhm.
is to pitch 1,000 jokes, and 998 of them or whatever, never see the light of day, and it's
Mhm.
very fun when a joke that you came up with airs. But then sometimes you're like, what am I going to do with these other that 900 of them are crap, but maybe 90 of them are very funny, but don't work anywhere else. It's like, well,
Right.
I guess you make a mug. Um,
So how many of these mugs actually exist? How many did you make?
um, a couple, I don't know, and many of them have broken. And then some of them have jokes that are like too insidery, which don't make sense to anyone else. But this one, I feel like, sort of speaks for itself and is the crowning achievement of the mug game. And then and then it sort of caught on, and some of the other writers then made mugs that were sort of more pointedly making fun of the show and would distribute those. Mine was also trying to just sort of celebrate Christmas and myself. Hanky Panky, also a Christmas movie, by the way. We haven't talked about
Right.
it, but it is a
That's right.
Christmas film.
That's
So you
right.
have to watch it on Tubi every holiday season with your family. That's the idea. We were like, we got to make a Christmas movie. Uh,
Absolutely.
I love a good Christmas movie.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love a zany
Yeah.
weird Christmas. I'm Jewish, but I love a good Christmas movie. I think It's a Wonderful Life is one of my favorite films of all time, like
Yeah.
unironically, but then
Yeah.
also like I do have a script called Zombies for Christmas, which is a really fun zombie Christmas movie that I see happening in the style of like a Rankin Bass, like Rudolph the
Mhm.
Red-Nosed Reindeer, early
Mhm. Mhm.
60s
Oh, wow. Nice.
stop
Okay.
motion animation. Like I love
Oh,
that
okay.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, that sounds kind of awesome.
It is awesome. Thank you. Yes, there should be more zombie Christmas movies in Rankin Bass style stop motion.
I don't know why
Seth,
that
are you
would.
listening? Stupid buddy should buy it from me. He's not listening. I've already pitched it to Seth.
And he didn't go for it. Wow,
He
that
loved
is
it.
a
I did a table read with
uh,
my friends, and he was like, "This is
uh,
great. You need to." I was like, "What should I do with it?" Wink, wink. And he was like, "You need to find like a producer who believes in that." And I was like, "I no one does." But okay, I persist.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's what you gotta do. Keep on keeping on, carry on,
Yeah.
keep calm and stop motion zombies.
Just to go full circle on what we were talking
Sure.
about a minute ago when I was like, what do you write for the market or for yourself? It's like right now, I mean, I think that used to be a harder question because the market used to move slower, and now
Mhm.
it's like things change, like what people are looking for and what's happening in the film industry at least happen like it moves so quickly, and executives move back and forth between companies, and companies are
Mhm.
bought out, and they're streaming, now they're bundled, now there's a mandate, now there's whatever. Like that changes, it changes faster than you can write a script. So I was talking to a friend of mine recently, and I was like, screenwriting is like, if you're trying to write for the market, it's like you're shooting a moving target, but you have a 6 month reload time on your gun because that's how long it takes to write the next thing.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I've gone through different sort of ups and downs in my career where I've sort of emphasized trying to write what I thought was going to sell,
Mm.
And right now, you happen to have caught me in a moment where I am fully in the like, no, I'm just writing whatever I want for myself and seeing if anything will stick because uh I don't know what any I've tried writing what people want and it's not as fun and it's it's not like it's like a sure bet or whatever. If it was a sure bet, I'd do it.
No, and the markets change and fade and come back, and like if you were unlucky enough to write a vampire thing, you know, when Twilight was at its peak, well, you're pretty much, out of luck if you hit that wave too late. But sit on it. It'll come back in 10 years. That's just the way that, a lot of this stuff goes.
Yeah. I think you know, creating the things that you're most passionate about is the only sensible option, really, at times,
Yeah.
at most time, in most occasions.
Hmm. Yeah, I have I have like a Japanese like samurai thing that, it's been sort of my passion project for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And, I've had a lot of people say, well, but it's too niche and people are not going to dig it. And now Shogun is huge and Blue-Eyed Samurai is huge. And,
Right.
you know, it's just a matter of like, just do your thing. And when the wave comes, you'll be ready for it. So I don't know.
Yeah. The niche is huge. You know what I mean? Like everything that's really big right now feels like it was surprising.
Mm,
Like it feels like the powers that be, shall we say, seem particularly in a decade of being particularly bad at predicting what's going to be big or not big,
mm,
for whatever fiscal, technological, creative, whatever reasons. Like
mm,
it feels like everything that hits is a surprise right
mm,
now, and then everything that's supposed to be a surefire bet is a disappointment.
mm.
Um, so I don't know. I think as a creative, it's like you can take heart in that because it's like, okay, so just make whatever you want. At some point it'll hit or it won't, but it's the only thing and the best thing you can do. So
Yep. Yep. Do it from the heart.
ask
And
me again in a few months and I'll be
yep.
like, no, you got to find exactly what they're looking for and then make it your own. And I'll change my mind at some point, but that's where I am. That's where I am this morning
Yeah.
on
Fair
Wednesday.
enough. Fair enough. So I'm just gonna do a wrap and
Sure. I
uh,
also wanted to say I just listened last night to the Crow episode that you did
oh,
just the other day, and I loved it. One time, first of all, I love crows. Big fan of crows.
they're awesome.
Loved the Crow episode. One time, my wife and I saved a Lindsay. That's Lindsay Hahn, who is the
Hmm.
co-director of Hanky Panky.
Hmm.
One time, we saved a baby crow, um, successfully from a because it had fallen out of a tree and it was
Wow.
injured,
Oh.
and it was at a dog park where we had taken our
Oh
dog,
my
and it
God.
was like we can't leave this thing on the ground at the dog park. So it was
Clearly.
like, and it was kind of still during the pandemic, and like
Hmm.
it was at the tail end of the pandemic. So it was like we were going to dog parks, but we weren't going like inside places. And
Hmm.
so it was very much a like, okay, we got to find. There was, I drove to Calabasas, which is far from where we were. I'll put it. To bring it to a crow rescue sanctuary that was out there, which I can't remember the name of. I should plug
Wow.
them, but they were great. And I wrapped it in a sweatshirt and put it in a box and brought it out there. And they were
Oh my
like, "We'll try
gosh.
to rehome it to the same zip code that it came from." But it was really interesting because I forget the name of the guest that you had on who was talking about crows, but when she was saying like when she approached the crow, there's all these crows in the tree. She didn't know how it was going to go. We were like, this crow was on the ground, and the crows in the tree were like picking twigs off the tree and throwing them at us to keep us away from the bait. Like it was fully like it was very clear that they were like, stay away from our baby crow. And we were
Hmm.
and we tried to level with the crows where we were like, we're going to do our best to save this crow because it's not going to survive being on the ground at a dog park as an injured
Right.
bird. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like this is not a healthy environment. Like we need to we need to do this. And in fact, it was very gratifying because you never know. Like I was like, are we doing the right thing? Are we going to mess this up? Are these crows like are we stealing their child from that? We were very beat up about it, very emotional when I got the crow to the rescue sanctuary. They were like, this should have been my show and tell. They were like, usually what we say is it's better not to intervene and take a crow away unless there's some imminent danger. And I was like, well, this crow was on the ground at a dog park, and they were like, oh, you did the right. This crow would have been dog food
Right.
in minutes or hours at the most. And we were like, okay, great. So I was like, and I was fully like, can I follow up? Can I find out about this crow? They were like, no, we do not have the infrastructure to like get in touch with everyone who brings us an injured crow and give them an update on the health of the crow. You did the right thing. Thank you for the crow. We're gonna bring this crow to a group of other crows and give it, basic medical attention and then set it free. And I was like, all right, okay, good enough.
That'll do. Well, that's great. I love that you have a crow story. Like it gives continuity to the season in an
Yes.
in an
And
unexpected way.
we have a my wife feeds the crows in our neighborhood, and so we have a decent rapport with our neighborhood
Mm,
crows. They look out for us. They chase the owls away a little
mm,
bit. I think it's
hmm
good.
hmm Yeah. Oh, owls are freakish.
Yeah.
Every time I learn something new about an owl, it's like, what the fuck?
What? Give me an owl fact that I don't know about.
Okay, owls sleep face down.
Yeah, I've
Just
seen that. Just smashed right into the ground because their heads are too heavy, right?
yeah. And also, owls have really long ass legs.
They're just covered in feathers.
They're just like most of the time they're sort of tucked up and they're covered with the feathers so you can't see them. But
Oh,
when you see these owls splatted out face down sleeping, you see these long ass they're like Big Bird. They're like Muppet legs. It's the weirdest thing. Every
I
time I
love
learn
owls.
something, every time I learn something new about owls, it messes me up. I'm like, what the hell are these
The
animals?
more I learn about them, the more I identify with them. Like they have these weird quirks and strange bodies, and then they're very wise.
Mm,
I aspire. They're everything I aspire to in a bird.
fair enough. Yeah, I don't know, maybe I should investigate owls now. There's got to be an
There's
owl
a
expert somewhere
there's a
that I
lot
can
of
talk to.
interesting. Yes, you should. There's a lot of interesting bird drama in our neighborhood. We live in Laurel Canyon, and so there's
Yeah.
a lot of interesting bird drama. There's like a for sure like a Shogun Game of Thrones-esque saga happening between the crows and the hawks. Like that
Mm,
is a constant like territorial dynastic
mm,
multi-generational war that has been transpiring here.
mm,
And because of climate change, like we've gotten more rain, which has caused more of the small growth that causes more. I talked to someone from the Parks Commission about this actually. So there are more small like rodents than ever before. There's more
mm,
rats, and the rabbit population has gone up, which has exploded the
mm-hmm,
hawk population.
mm-hmm,
So like
mm-hmm,
Los Angeles is in a hawk surge right now, which has like shifted this dynamic between the hawks and the crows. It's I don't know. There is somewhere there is a full story here, and someone should make a documentary about it who
mm.
doesn't have small children and has time to really get into it.
Right, because you don't want the small children to get picked up by the hawks.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to piss the hawks off.
No.
If you have the small kid, you don't want them coming to your house and and messing up your family.
Yeah,
It's
that's
too
fair.
hot button an issue. I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do anything about Putin or Modi or Xinjiang or Hawks. Those are the documentaries that are off the table when you have a family.
That's fair and wise. Absolutely. All right, cool. So I'm just gonna do the wrap and we'll call it. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me. This has been an absolute delight. That's our show, nerds. We've got such a season in the shoot for you. It's unbelievable. Resident Aliens Alice Wetterland is coming on. It's going to be a blast. I've been your host, Jen Jackalone. Please hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed this show, and check out the links in the description to follow Nick on his social media and get your hands on those D&D stat blocks for the hat and the handkerchief. Remember, nerds, inside you there are two wolves. Sorry about the transporter malfunction. Stay hydrated, take care, take it easy, and stay geeky.